Hi, on today's episode of Foster Denovo Talks, we talk to Dave Hulland. He talks to us about his career in financial services, his role now at Foster Denovo, and about how he's looking to create a niche in the marketplace for himself.
So I just started applying for jobs that involved working with people. And I thought, brilliant, it's going to be easy to get a job now because there's not enough advisors in the country. And then I found out it was far from that. It was very difficult to get a job. There's been days where you've got your head in your hands thinking, what am I doing? There's people out there that are putting loads of time and effort into getting really good at what they do, but they then lack time or effort or enthusiasm to actually think of the why they're doing it.
So do check it out. Hi Dave, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm keeping out of trouble.
That is so good to hear.
Yeah, of course.
So Dave, what we're going to do today is talk about your career. Obviously you have been, it's not obvious actually, recently been acquired, the firm that you work in, to Foster Denovo. So we'll talk about that. But let's start off with, the life and times of Dave. So tell me about how you got into financial services.
It's a bit of a strange story, in fairness.
Okay, why am I not surprised already about this?
So my first job was an office job. And I worked there for a number of years, and then I kind of thought I want to do something working with people, because I didn't really like the office job. I found it a little bit mundane. So I just started applying for jobs that involved working with people. And I got a letter through the post that invited me to an interview to work for Nationwide. I couldn't...
Now we know slightly how old you are when you're getting an invite to an interview in the post.
Yes.
I'm loving this. Okay,
so you got 60.
So we got an invite inviting you to Nationwide.
Yes. And I couldn't remember applying for the job. I didn't know what the job was. And somehow I got the job.
Right, okay.
But I knew it was going to be a job involving people. So that was good. And it wasn't until I'd been on my training course and then started working in a branch that I found out that I was actually working as part of the counter staff team, which was a shock.
Right, okay.
But I went with it, and I suddenly found out that it wasn't a case of just doing the job and doing the day-to-day transactions with the customers that came in. The job was more about trying to find ways to help those people that had come into the branch, whether that was saving them, interest on a mortgage, or saving them interest if they were paying a credit card debt by offering services elsewhere. So that was very much what I wanted, a job helping people and working with people. But that came as a surprise to me.
Okay. So how long were you at Nationwide then?
I was there for about 5 or 6 years. And the reason that I'd left Nationwide was I just felt that I'd have been staying there too long before I was progressing any further. So throughout my time there was, one of my good friends now called Dan. I kind of used him as a little bit of a mentor whilst I was there, because he was kind of like one step ahead of me in terms of like a job role. And I thought I can either wait and learn the job myself or cheat a little bit than use Dan, because Dan was very successful and very good at what he did. So I always used to nag Dan to say, come on, I want you to observe me and help me out here. And I did that for 5 years, and I kind of followed in Dan's footsteps. So progressed from being on the counter to opening bank accounts for people to eventually giving mortgage advice.
Okay.
And then Dan left Nationwide, and I thought, I've got to leave Nationwide now.
If Dan's gone, I'm gone. That's it. That's it. Do we still know Dan? Is he going to listen?
Yeah. Dan's a good friend still.
Okay.
But yeah, so I left. I finished up with Nationwide, giving mortgage advice, which was good. I really enjoyed it, but I just felt it was very still transactional. You had people coming in wanting help, and you developed a good relationship with these people. And you was helping them with something that was quite exciting in their life, buying a first home maybe.
Yeah.
Or something less exciting, going through divorce. Or maybe that's still exciting, who knows. But you was like developed a relationship with them. But then that relationship ended as soon as the transaction was finished. And that was a bit about the job that I didn't really like. You really got to know someone, and then that was it. They were out of your life, and it was very, very much felt like next.
Yeah, so that's that transactional piece, isn't it, really, around that? Okay, So you thought, right, this is it. Dan's gone. I'm going. So you left Nationwide. What happened next?
So in the meantime, I'd be getting my qualifications to give advice on my level 4 diploma.
So was that always the plan then? So when you were doing the mortgage advice, you'd seen the financial planners as sort of what they used to be FPMs,
yes,
wasn't it, in banking?
It was.
So you thought that was always going to be your route, was it?
I wouldn't say I felt it was always going to be my route. It was something that I naturally fell into, or I naturally kind of thought I want to do that. That's the next step. Just because I saw Paul, who worked next to me, he'd be seeing his clients, every 6 months or every year, and he really did have a good relationship with them. And I wanted what he had, if that made sense.
Yeah, so it's that continual client relationship ongoing every year as opposed to the sort of more transactional that you having.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were studying for your exams.
Yeah. So I passed them, fab, ticking a box, and I thought, brilliant, it's going to be easy to get a job now because there's not enough advisors in the country. And then I found out it was far from that. It was very difficult to get a job because everywhere that I applied for, it was a case of, we've given mortgage advice, but you've not given financial advice.
Right.
So it was a kick to the teeth, really, because I was going into it with a lot of enthusiasm. And I thought, well, how do you get the experience? I thought, I'm already giving advice. Is that not good enough? And it wasn't.
Okay, so where did the break come from then?
The break came when I applied for a job at a company called Wesleyan.
Okay.
And I didn't really know an awful lot about them at the time, but I knew it was an opportunity to start giving financial advice holistically, which was great. And Wesleyan specialise in different sectors. So they look after like the medical profession, the dental profession, and the educational profession as well. And I ended up working for the educational profession side of it. And again, that was a massive learning curve from, seeing someone that wants your help and they need a mortgage and you can help them with a mortgage, to then delivering presentations in front of teaching staff and head teachers around retirement planning, which is what you used to do. So you'd go into a school.
That's quite a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference.
Okay.
If only I'd have known.
I was going to say, going from talking to one person individually who's come to you for advice
Yeah.
to then going presenting to a big group of people, I mean, that's terrifying, no?
Yeah, it was a bit daunting.
Okay.
But you get used to it. You get used to it. And the bit that I struggled with is when people are getting a mortgage, they know they want a mortgage and they've already done the research online and they know they need your help. Whereas this angle or this type of role, it was very much, these people don't know that they need your help. They don't know the services that you offer or the products that you offer. And it was very much trying to deliver a presentation in a way that kind of engages them to want your help and want your services. And it was tough.
Okay. So how did you get through that and build your client bank then?
So I worked with a colleague that we kind of like shared a patch. Like sounds very old school, but it was kind of very much postcode driven.
Okay.
So we kind of just stumbled through it together, like delivering the presentations. And again, very much like I did at Nationwide, I got support off Dan, a bit mentoring and that type of thing. My area manager at Wesleyan, he played a pivotal part in my career, I think. He was I could tell that he probably used to be a very good financial advisor, and he used to sit in on the meetings. So, I'd drive up to Manchester or wherever, and my manager would be there waiting for me, and we'd go into the client's house together, and he'd then give feedback afterwards in terms of what went well and
Okay.
what could be improved on. And again, tough to hear feedback because it's just,
Brutal sometimes.
yeah, and it's like almost attacking your personality, isn't it? But I liked that because it was a way that I thought I can grow
Yeah.
quicker. So I used to ask Glenn to observe me in my appointments quite often, and he'd give me feedback, and I just felt like it was a way that I could get better quicker.
Okay. So you were working at Wesleyan
Yeah.
and you were enjoying the role and you were learning proper financial advice.
Yeah.
Right. And holistically. So you obviously moved. So what was the driver to then move from there to your next role?
So I still felt like I was lacking the long-term relationship with the clients because I dealt a lot with teachers and head teachers who've got really good pension schemes. So you'd do the retirement planning piece with them at the presentation, and they'd come to you for a little bit of help. You'd talk to them about how the teacher's pension scheme worked, maybe look at options for the money to work a little bit harder if they had some money in the bank. And then that was it. They'd retire, and then you'd probably never see them again. So I still felt I was lacking that long-term relationship piece.
Yeah, still quite transactional to a degree then.
Yes, like
Okay.
there was some clients that you'd see the next year and that type of thing, but it was a small number of people. So that's when I got introduced into Brian Mole.
Okay. So talk to us about Brian Mole and what the role was there and how it was different.
Massively different. So
Okay.
considering that financial advice is financial advice, I found it was done very differently from one firm to the next.
Okay.
So I went from working for a national firm, quite corporate, very rigid and structured, to Brian Mole, 20 staff, I think, maybe 22 or something like that. Not as much structure, clearly, but a lot more free. And the advisors there, I mean, some of them have been looking after clients for 20 years, and then they're looking after the kids and that type of thing. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So started working for them, and yeah, big culture shock really, because they just trusted you to do what you wanted to do. And I struggled with that massively because I come from having a rigid structure
Right.
of this is how you should run an appointment, and it's very checklist driven. So we trust you to do the job, Dave, as long as the people are getting regulated advice and it's fully compliant,
Yeah,
then
so you've gone
crack
from a
on.
complete structure and this framework and this is everything how it's done to off you go,
Yeah,
basically. Okay.
yeah.
So how did you get over that then?
I haven't. No. So I discovered Brian Mole used cash flow planning,
Okay.
cash flow tools, which was new to me. Like I knew of it, but I didn't really use it at Wesleyan, and that was what I felt was missing. So I latched on to that. So that helped massively because then instead of just showing clients, yep, you can afford to retire and let's invest some money to try and make it work harder for you, all of a sudden you can show clients, well, this is the benefit of working with us on a long term basis. Because yes, we can do this today, but if we help you and we see you on a yearly basis or 6 monthly basis, then this is the difference that that can make to your finances and ultimately your life. Um,
Mm.
so, well, all gone.
No. I was just going to say, so that's building, isn't it? That's creating that long-term relationship that you were looking for, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And how long have you been at, well, we're not call them Brian Mole anymore because they have been acquired by Foster Denovo, but how long have you been there so far?
3 years.
And have you found yourself changing in the way that you advise and you speak to clients from having this sort of freedom and trust, etc.?
Hugely, hugely. So
Okay.
when I started leaning on more of the cash flow planning side of things and developing retirement plans for people, I could see the impact that it had. And some people it'd be great because you'd have that conversation with them around what they want to do in retirement, and then you'd see them next year and they've done some of that stuff. And it was, it's quite rewarding.
That's satisfying, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But then some people you'd meet them the year after and they hadn't done any of it. And I kind of felt a little bit guilty, if that makes sense, because I thought I've not done a strong enough job to make them to want to do these things.
Right.
So that then led me to think, well, I clearly need some help. So then I got another mentor, and I've been working with him for 6 months or so, just on and off. And he's kind of changed my mentality a little bit in terms of when I first meet clients, and it's less about the money.
Yep.
The money's important, so it's less about the money and less about the cash flow tool as such, and it's more about building a safer environment for clients to open up and create ideas for themselves in terms of what they want to do in retirement.
So it's
So
building that trust with them, isn't it? So that once you've got the trust, then everything else follows from that, right?
yeah, exactly. And looking back, I think at the start of Brian Mole, you're thinking, I'm the advisor, how many holidays do you want to go on? Well, yes, it works, crack on and go on your holidays. But then looking at it, that's my ideas, it's not their ideas.
Yeah.
So changing the approach now to what I do now and looking back, I'm now helping clients to come up with their own ideas.
Okay. So you sort of nearly flipped it on its head. And okay. And you're seeing that that's changing the way people are reacting to you as well.
Hugely, hugely. So I've still got a lot to learn. I've changed this approach since August last year,
Okay.
but I've seen success in it. So I've gone from, say 50-50. Some clients living the retirement that they want to and 50% not. I've definitely seen a switch with that more clients are saying more things in appointments. They're opening up more to me, which
Okay.
means that I'm able to help them more.
Oh, it's brilliant. And obviously now we've met and, we acquired Brian Mole. Gosh, it was about 3 or 4 months ago now, I think, isn't it?
Mm.
It's gone really fast.
Yeah, yeah.
But how, I suppose before that happened, you were told
Yes.
that the firm was going to be acquired.
hmm
How did that affect you? How did you feel about that?
I mean, it wasn't a huge shock
Okay.
because the directors are in the 60s. They're helping people retire day in day out. They're probably thinking, I want to retire. So it wasn't a massive shock. I guess the timing was a shock, but it was. I always knew it was going to happen at some point. And then I just thought I'm going to have to go into it with eyes wide open.
And did you have any apprehension before it happened of how it would be or how the people would be and that side of things?
Not really. Not really. So it's a massive thing, changing companies. But I'm very much a believer of if it's out of your hands, why stress?
Okay.
There's nothing you can do about it other than get another job. And I didn't, I didn't really want another
Don't
job.
do that.
No,
Thank you. Please don't do that.
no.
And how has it been since then, since the acquisition? How have you found it? Because it's never easy, right? So tell us how it's been for you.
So I think you'd rightly so, you'd be naive to think it is an easy transition because you're going from delivering certain outcomes to people with the same staff, the same systems, the same building, to just effectively what you think is it's just a new name above the door. But you're delivering the same service to them,
Hmm.
but in a totally different way in terms of like process. So it has been tough. There's been days where you got your head in your hands thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But you get there. You get there with it.
And I think you've walked towards it, I have to say, with open arms. And I think a lot of the guys in the office has, which has been really, really great. Biggest differences that you would say between how you operated as Brian Mole and how you operate now as Foster Denovo?
I'd probably say the main difference for me is the focus that Foster Denovo's got on technology to
Okay.
like help us do the job better. Because you get bogged down in admin naturally,
Well, yeah.
which isn't why you want to do the job. You want to do the job to help people. So some of the technology that you guys are investing in, like the AI and some of the things that can help out admin and that type of thing, that's probably the biggest difference that I can see is that when the AI and the admin processes come in more smoother, that just means that I'm going to be able to spend much more time client facing, which is what the job should be about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're very excited about all the AI that we've implemented and how it saves efficiencies and basically has you guys out, seeing more people. I mean, I do remember walking into your office and seeing all of the paper everywhere and thought, my goodness, it's a timber box waiting to go up. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get through all of that.
Well, we just hide the paper when you come. That's all that happens.
Is that what it is? You just put it in there, and then
Yeah, we'll get
when
it
I
back
leave,
out.
you take it back out.
Yeah.
Now I know. Okay, thanks for that. And so you're sort of building your client bank at the moment, right?
Hmm.
And you're looking. We've talked about before. You're looking at sort of finding your own niche.
Yeah.
I've spoken to other advisors about this throughout their time. So how are you looking to build that? And have you got a niche yet, or have you got thoughts around what you want to do?
So I've definitely got thoughts around it. I
Okay.
think it's quite difficult trying to find what niche you want to work with. So it's quite broad at the minute.
Hmm.
And so Harriet, my wife, her and her mum, they've got an aesthetics clinic in Derby. Harriet's a doctor and her mum's a nurse. And that's led me to kind of think that I want to work with small business owners.
Okay.
So Harriet being my wife and me being a financial planner, you'd think she'd have a pension, wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I don't want to say it, but yes.
But she hasn't.
Okay.
So it makes you think that there's people out there that are putting loads of time and effort into getting really good at what they do, and they're concentrating on growing the business, which is ultimately their baby, but they then lack time or effort or enthusiasm to actually think of the why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And obviously they're doing it to make money, to provide a service, but there needs to be that exit strategy as well. So that's why I'm thinking I want to go down the routes of helping small to medium-sized business owners, because I think there's a hell of a lot of value that you can add.
Well, I think there is. And I think if you look at sort of entrepreneurs and people that start their own businesses, it's because they're good at something,
Mm,
right? Doesn't mean they're good at their finances. It doesn't, do you know what I mean? That's not their strong point. They're usually a creative or a tech or a something, aren't they?
yeah,
So they very often do forget, as you said, like your wife is, they don't have a pension or, they've got a couple of people in the firm and they don't know how to sort out any sort of insurance for them, all that sort of stuff. So I think small business owners is a great one if you can get in there and start building it. And I think everything works on referrals as well, doesn't
of
it?
course it
So,
does. Yeah, yeah.
once you start, then hopefully things will sort of roll on. Good. Okay. And sort of looking ahead then,
Hmm.
where do you see your career heading and going? And that's not leaving Foster Denovo, by the way. Just a quick one.
I'm handcuffed. No, so I think it's clear it's the honeymoon period, but I think it's Foster Denovo. From what I've seen so far, it seems like a very good home for me. Um, so ideally, I'd like to stay here because I think I can grow here as an advisor, and I think it's a great place for clients. So I think long term, I'd like to build a bit more of an online presence
Hmm.
because at the minute I know what my ability is as an advisor. I'm a good advisor and I want to become a great advisor, but I've got no online presence.
Okay.
I've got zero credibility. If I just start posting videos online, who am I to post videos online? So I think
you have lots of credibility, by the way.
yes,
Sorry, just to be clear.
but from like an online perspective,
Sure. So you want to build an online presence so people get to know you,
because I feel if I just put a post up, no one knows who I am, no one knows what help I can deliver them.
Yeah.
So I figure that over the next year to 18 months, I want to try to build a bit of a brand or a bit of a persona online, to try and attract clients. And now we're in the world of technology; it doesn't matter where clients live.
No, exactly. And I've always sort of said, some of our partners that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, they used to literally go and knock on people's doors and offer them pensions. And LinkedIn to me is just digital door knocking.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And everyone is online and that's how people do things nowadays. So, I think it's a great thing to do. And hopefully this podcast will help you in that.
The start of something special.
I think so, Dave. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.